Why do your conversations die in 30 seconds? You ask a question, they give a one-word answer. You ask another question, and you rinse and repeat until you run out of questions. Meanwhile, there's another guy over there who has everyone laughing, hanging out, hanging on every word. And the difference isn't charm or looks. It's just you're asking dead-end questions that kill the vibe before it even starts. So without further ado, I'm going to tell you exactly how to go from this weird, awkward question response interviewer sort of vibe to an actual conversation relationship vibe. And you can fix this overnight. So, first of all, this is why boring questions are actually confidence killers. So, you walk in with good intentions but you have terrible execution because your brain defaults to what do you do? Where are you from? How's your night going? How was your weekend? All of these things, and the person's energy immediately drops because they've answered these same questions 100 times. And it's so boring to answer the same question. Small talk, it's terrible. I'm sure you find it as well. If you go to a place and people just ask you the same things over and over and over again, you just feel yourself just getting drained. It's like, bro, ask me something else. I can't be asked. So then you start saying, yeah, good. Yeah, fine. And in friendships, guys think that you're surface level and not worth investing in. And women categorize you as nice, but boring, which is, that's literally friend zone material, even below friend zone material. It's just not a place you want to be, right? And you walk away thinking you're bad at conversations, but really you're just asking the wrong questions. Like, our brains crave novelty, stories, and boring questions just trigger autopilot responses. Because you've probably heard that people love talking about themselves, and you think, oh yeah, I'll ask them, what do they do, or where are you from, or how are you enjoying your night? But the problem is, because those questions are so common, there's no interest, there's no intrigue, there's no dopamine. It's such a learned response that it loses all interest to the person answering because they've answered it before, right? So it's just autopilot. It's like building up a tolerance. Like, when you drink an energy drink for the first time, how it might completely spike you up, or a coffee or something. But if you drink coffee, 3 times a day, every day for like 5 years, the coffee doesn't spike you the same way because you build up a tolerance. So it's like that. If you get asked the exact same questions, oh, how are you? How was your weekend? You build up a tolerance to the point where it's not interesting anymore, And so they just have zero emotional investment. And the thing is that people connect through emotions and shared experience, not facts or data. So if your question could be answered by reading somebody's Insta bio or watching someone's story, you're doing it wrong. So we're going to get into specifics now. So let's start off with the boring questions, the hall of shame for all the boring questions. So first of all is the generic starters. So stuff like, oh, what do you do for work? Or how's your night going? Or where are you from? Like, these are literally, people feel like they need to start conversations like this because that's how everyone does it. But the reality is that, I love this quote. I don't remember, I can't even quote it exactly, but it was a very famous author, and he said something like, if you're in the majority, you're doing something wrong. So in other words, if you do the same thing that everyone else is doing, chances are it doesn't work, especially because everyone else's results suck. Like, socializing is all-time low. So you need to look at yourself. You can just start conversation. Like, you'll be surprised how many conversations that you can start just by saying the most random things. Like, I mean, I've done that myself plenty of times. Like, you don't need to bother. Like, if somebody has something that looks interesting on them, just start the conversation. Like, oh, like what is that? Oh, that shirt is interesting. Or, oh yeah, like, what is that necklace or whatever? Or, oh, like, where are you from? Or do I'm like, it's pretty easy, right? You don't need to just don't do these really generic, like, where are you from? How's your night going? Da 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 da. Because they've heard all this stuff before, yeah? And then you have the lazy follow-ups, which is stuff like, oh, that's cool. Well, how long have you been doing that? Or do you like it? Like, it pretty much, because you're now on autopilot too. So they're on autopilot saying, oh yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. And you're like, oh, that's great. How do you like the, you know what I mean? Like, you're just both on autopilot and both of you are not interested or invested in the conversation. And then you have all of these kill conversations because they're predictable, they have minimal thought to answer, they don't create any emotional connection or intrigue, and they signal that you're not confident enough to lead the conversation. So now let's look at better ways. So conversations actually spark stories. So instead of, oh, what do you do? Try, what's the most ridiculous thing that happened at work this weekend? Or what's something you're working on that actually gets you excited? And why this works is because it gets them talking about something that they're actually passionate about. It's a question that actually has emotional value, And instead of reciting job descriptions, there's an emotional edge to it, right? It's not just facts and data. Instead of, oh, where are you from? What's one thing about your hometown that would surprise people? Or if they tell you where they're from, then you can ask that, oh, what's one thing about, you know, X? What's one thing about that specific place that would surprise people? Or what's the weirdest tradition from that place? Or it's like something like that, because again, it creates that opportunity for funny stories and engagement. And the last one, how's your night going, or how are you going, or stuff like that. You could try like, what's the most interesting conversation you've had tonight? Or on a scale of 1 to 10, how much are you regretting being here right now? Or something like that, because it shows you're paying attention and it adds humor to break the tension, right? And then this is like the advanced move, but you can do assumption-based questions, which is something I quite like. So instead of asking their job, you can say like, oh, you seem like somebody who works in business or whatever. Like this, I remember I was talking to this one girl, and I talked to her for a while, and I just remember just randomly thinking, and the thing is, you have to be genuine with this stuff. You can't make an assumption-based question and you don't actually believe it. But she literally looked like the really artsy type, but she hasn't mentioned anything. So I literally said to her like, oh, you seem like the type who's creative or whatever. And she said she does dance, and I was like, yeah, that doesn't really count. I was more thinking like creative, and she said, oh, like I do. I think she said like crocheting or something, and I was like, oh yeah, like that counts. And we can talk about that being a thing that grandmas are doing another time, but it's that sort of creativity, and I just some people just have that vibe about them, and so I'm sure you can think about stuff like that, or oh, I bet you're the type, even something as broad as I bet you're the type of person that has some weird hobby that no one knows about. And again, these work because it creates intrigue, confidence in reading people. And then the great thing is, even if you're wrong, it will still lead to a conversation. Like either, because it feels like a compliment either way. Like if you tell someone that they seem like a creative person, even if they're not, it still comes off as a compliment. It'll be like, oh no, I'm not. I'm more into this. And then boom, you just talk about that instead. Or, oh, I am. I talk about this. It's either way you win, right? So it's great. So specifically for male conversations, you can do stuff, I've just written these down, so that's why I'm looking down a little bit. You can do stuff like, what's something you're actually passionate about that people don't expect? What's the stupidest thing you believed as a kid? What's a skill you wish you had but you're too lazy to learn? What's your end goal in life? Like, where do you want to end up? What's your most unpopular opinion that you'll defend to the death? Because these deep friendships make you confident with them, and you just build this relationship really well, instead of just defaulting to these default topics like, oh, how was your weekend? Oh, have you watched the football? Like, you miss these opportunities to build real friendships. And in dating, because obviously, again, this works, everything I share on this channel pretty much works in both contexts. If you're genuinely interested or curious about them, that gives you like a massive edge. So you could do something like, oh, what's something that you're irrationally passionate about? Or what's one spontaneous thing you've done recently? Or what's a belief that you have that most people would consider crazy? Or what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Because it pretty much, those questions all prime people to give away their passion, their deepest purpose in life, which gives them that interest. Because when someone's talking about something they're passionate about, their face lights up. And then you can do, I said this in the last video, I forgot what the technique is called, but then you can actually amplify on that specific thing. You can say, oh wow, I saw your face light up when you started talking about it, you must really enjoy this, or something. And then they keep going. It's all of this sort of stuff. It's really easy. And then for some advanced dating questions, you can do stuff like, oh, what's something interesting about yourself that most people get wrong? Or what's the most interesting place you've seen that isn't on people's bucket list usually? Or what's a skill that you have that would surprise me? Like, your energy, I've said this so much, body language, presence, voice, tone of voice, all of this matters infinitely more than what you actually say. So boring questions with confident energy will be way better than great questions delivered poorly. So you need to, like these, obviously it's still good to improve these questions, that is the point. But if you walk up and say, if I walk up to you, like let's say we're talking, and let me look at the two things. So if I say, oh, what do you do? Hey, what do you do, right? If I do that, or I say, what's something you're working on that gets you excited? Obviously, I'm exaggerating that, but you understand that the first one, I'm sure, if you're being honest with yourself, you were much more primed to actually respond and engage than the second one. So you need to have both sides of the same coin, right? So the challenge for this week is First of all, identify your conversation starter, your go-to one or two that always fall flat. And it's probably what do you do or how are you going or whatever. Admit it. Second thing, choose one from this video that replaces it and feels natural to you. Practice it until it feels comfortable and start with lower stakes conversations like cashiers, co-workers, whoever, and then track the difference. I love this step. I think it's so important. Notice how people treat you before and after. And just remember, it'll feel awkward at first, but pay attention to how much longer these conversations last and just practice them for a week and reflect on how much better it is even a week later. So, comment below, what's the most boring question you ask? Let's all call ourselves out. Subscribe to keep finding social skills and to build confidence that lasts. Share this video with a friend if it helped. Join the Discord server for even more advanced tips and one-to-one feedback. And stop being forgettable, because your conversation should leave people wanting more, not less. Boring questions get boring results every time. It's time to level up. Thanks for watching.